Hello and welcome to PKA Solves Live. I'm your host, Rebecca Tasetano, and today I have a very special guest. As you know, PKA Solves Live is a show where we talk about solutions for the modern world that will make your life a little bit easier. And I'm very excited to have today a very special guest that I met recently and that has been doing amazing things from the incredible country of Canada. Jarrod Goldsmith is a Canadian small business community builder and on-demand speaker who offers inspiration and practical knowledge to help others achieve their dream of entrepreneurship. He's been featured in dozens of television, video, and audio segments, as well as having articles published in newspapers, magazines, and online forums promoting himself and the entrepreneur community. Let's give a big round of applause and a big welcome to Jarrod Goldsmith. Hi, Jarrod.
Hello, Rebecca. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
We're so happy to have you here, and thank you for joining us on PKA Solves Live. I met you recently at kind of a virtual networking community thing, and I know that you have had quite a history that has led you up until this point. I think a lot of people in 2020 had kind of a pivot where they went from what they were doing to something new. And we're all about that here. And I just was hoping to hear a little bit more of your story. So could you start us kind of at the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey and talk to us about why it is that you became an entrepreneur and some lessons that you learned along the way?
For sure, Rebecca. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be on the PKA Solves segment. Now, it's funny you mentioned the word pivot. I've recently launched a new podcast called Pivoted Success, where, most of the time we hear in COVID, especially in the entrepreneur circles, doom and gloom, businesses are closing. It's a sad and scary time. But there are organizations and businesses out there who have adapted and pivoted quite well. So we shine the light on some of those organizations and individuals to show inspiration and knowledge and wisdom. Getting a little off topic now, but now a little bit about me. I wear a hat. I mean, there's more to me than that, but I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was in school, I was a very avid saxophone player. And if anybody's listening, take your saxophone out, dust it off, and start playing again. But everyone was saying, when you're a teenager, don't go into music. You're crazy. Get a real life. Get a real job. I'm like, okay, what did I know? So what did I do? I went into university and I studied archaeology. Awesome. Good stuff. I spent 7 years in university. I have 2 degrees in archaeology, but I worked in the field a couple of years here and there, did some digs, but I kept up the music. I kept traveling around, playing, gigs around town when I could. When I moved to Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the capital of Canada, I thought, how hard is it to get a government job? It's a government town. Very, very tough. I worked contracts to contracts. Even though I have a graduate degree, I could kind of speak French. Not many people were hiring a musical archaeologist, but I had a lot of great skills from all these great opportunities in the government of, mostly federal government. And in 2011, my last contract ended. And it was contract, going on employment insurance in 6 months, and I'd be looking for a job again. After 7 or 8 years, I got tired of that. And I said, enough's enough. I'm finally going to go into music full time. So what did I do? I opened up an all saxophone band. Very unique. Not very many people have heard of an all saxophone.
No, this is the first all saxophone band that I've heard of.
Yeah. And of course, we're called Sax Appeal. And we're quite active on social media. And I was going to networking events to literally create a market. Because you're right, Rebecca. Most people, when they're having a 600 or 800 person cocktail reception, they need background music or a wedding band. They get a string quartet. String quartet's fine. Or a jazz combo, sax, guitar, bass, whatever. But all saxophones? No, you don't see it. That's what I was promoting. And having gone to hundreds of networking events back in 2011, I had a really good pulse on how networking was done in Ottawa. And I thought there could be a better way. There were 5 chambers of commerce just in my town. I joined them all. I used to go to 10 or 15, 20 events a week. That's all I did. Bang, 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 back-to-back networking events. And Rebecca, I used to joke, if it was more than me, I called it a networking event. So sometimes I'd be at an event with 2 people. It's great. I started an organization called eSAX, about a year later, hosting networking for entrepreneurs and small business owners in Ottawa. And you can see these aren't virtual banners. They're 2 8-foot banners behind me. And they kept growing, and I kept hosting these events and giving workshops and podcasts and segments, so much so that I became known as the networking guy who plays music versus that music guy who goes to networking events. It was a nice little change. And with 700 videos on YouTube, a lot of what I've done through eSAX is to act as resources for others. As you mentioned in the quick debrief early on, it's to help people learn about entrepreneurship, marketing, branding, sales. Networking is always my forte and what I love doing. And now that we're virtual, let's just say when COVID hit, musicians and live event planners took the brunt. We were the hardest hit industries, last to come back. And I realized the first week of COVID, I have to change. I have to pivot, or I'm not going to have a business. I'm going to have to sell my house in scary times like most of us have to deal with. I came across a virtual event platform, and Rebecca, it's changed my life. I've never been more busy hosting events of all kinds. It's not Zoom. And anywhere from helping with President Joe Biden's virtual inauguration gala. Like, we had 3,500 people, Billie Eilish, Bruce Springsteen, Tom Hanks. It was an A-lister event all the way. And eSAX helped make that happen by hiring 20 people. And I've never been more busy hosting virtual events. So that's what I've been doing since COVID.
That is really neat. So it seems like you wanted to pursue your dream and you decided, I'm going to throw everything behind this dream of mine of having multiple saxophone. Tell me, what's the term again? Like, do you have 4 people in your?
Usually 4. It's a saxophone quartet.
A saxophone quartet. And
or depending on the budget or the event, sometimes we'll do a duet of just 2 saxophones.
Wow. And you knew this is something that people don't know that they want, that they really want. And unless I put myself out there, unless I go to these networking events, and unless I tell people about it, people won't know that this even exists because it's so cutting edge.
Yeah, everybody could use more sax in their life.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like took it upon yourself to promote this in a way that was so, that you promoted it so well that people couldn't ignore you, that people had to, in your area, had to know that this was a thing and a remarkable thing that they wanted to talk to other people about.
Well, that's one part of it, Rebecca. Like, going to networking events, I wasn't born with this fedora. I only started wearing it because I'm a saxophone player, and I realized early on I had to stand out in a crowd, which years later, I learned all of these lessons from wearing it religiously. Like, you know, my business cards are fedoras. It's pretty cool. But all that to say is I learned a lot about branding. So when I walk into a room, everybody knows me. They see me because I stand out. And I said, it doesn't matter what you sell, services, products, widgets, whatever, you have to make an impression. People have to see you. And a lot of what I talk about is how to do that through the branding, the consistency, not everybody's comfortable being in front of a camera or being the center of attention. That's fine. But everybody has to know who you are when you walk into a room. And how do you stand out? So yes, originally I was promoting the band, but I realized years ago that, well, Rebecca, not many people are getting married too often. Especially these days, not many people are having a 600-person reception that they need cocktail music for, or classical music for a wine tasting, whatever the case is. What I was doing was developing relationships with people. In the eventuality of when they need music, they're going to give me a call. Yes, I book other musicians as well. You need a dance band, no problem, because I'm very, very well established in the music industry here in Ottawa. But I realized the relationships was valuable, very, very key to stay in business. When somebody asks anything about music, I'm the first call. And likewise for networking, hosting networking events, anything creating resources for entrepreneurs, I often get the call now because I've developed this rapport with people over years. It takes a long time to develop that credibility and a very short time to destroy it. So, and I have a few videos, 100 videos talking about how do you create the relationships the value, the purpose of them. And it's pretty much everything I've learned. But I never took formal studies in networking. I used to be very shy at first. I remember when I started going to networking events, I would say my sales pitch, and it was horrendous. And I realized soon that you have to tweak your entire conversation to what people are saying, listen. Anyways, I could go on and on and on about the value of networking. But all that to say is, as an entrepreneur, you have to read the room and adapt your business, or you're not going to stay in business. It's that simple. And looking at you with PKA, looking at all forms of technology, you're like front and center, keeping tabs on what's happening and what's new. You're the one who introduced me to Stream Deck. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. So I want to get to Stream Deck, and the Stream Deck is kind of what we're building up toward. That's going to be our tool of the day. But I wanted to just dig in and kind of recognize you or compliment you, because it feels like you kind of built a platform for yourself, and the lessons that you learned in building that platform and building that branding, in building your identity and the relationships that you have in your local community, you kind of took all of those things that you learned and then turned around and decided to give that information out to others through your YouTube channel and through your presence. And I just kind of wanted to dig in a little bit more with that. What prompted you to say, I want to take my knowledge and share it with other people that might be in a similar boat where I was, and give them the tools that I didn't necessarily have through formal training?
Absolutely. You touched on a lot of great things. First off, I don't know if it was intentional, but you used the word dig in twice. I don't know if that was an archaeological reference, but I totally take it.
No, but I'll take it.
I'll take it. That was fabulous. Much of what I've done over the years with all of these resources, my blogs, my posts, my podcasts, I have 2 podcasts, by the way, it's to act as a resource for others, to help them learn some of these entrepreneurship skills, the branding, the networking, virtual events. And when I started using this platform, I white labeled it to eSAX virtual events. That's what we're called. And I realized early on that there's a lot of people who do virtual events in the world. I never considered anybody else competition to what I do. I always thought it's on my banners. Is that the English one? It says collaboration down there. To find people to collaborate and work with. Because when I host an event, like I wouldn't have been able to hire 20 people for President Biden's event if I didn't already know them and trusted them and vouch for them. It takes time to develop that credibility, like I mentioned. And the same thing with whatever industry you're in. You will probably need to work with your competition at some point. Sometimes they're going to get swamped. They're going to refer clients to you, vice versa. I have a lot of videos talking about this sort of thing, but I've always thought it was very short-sighted when somebody says, oh, you do networking events. Oh, you're competition to me in town. So I'm not going to post anything that you post. And I say, well, my resources are available to everybody. Networking is networking. Doesn't matter if you have a networking organization like I do. The skills are applicable to everybody. And I've always thought that's why I spent so many thousands of hours and a lot of money on my YouTube channel, is to help other people realize that there are resources out there for startups, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, whatever it is. And so same with virtual events. I'm the first one to say, I send them a follow-up LinkedIn message. Hey, nice meeting you on the event this afternoon. Let's connect and maybe we can find ways to collaborate. And much like you approached me, hey, let's brainstorm and get things working and get the juices going. And that's why we're here today. So I love it. I can't get enough of this.
I love it too. And I think that it's important to have this kind of long-term view of the relationships that you're building and the network that you're creating for yourself, because I think that we kind of all sometimes have like something to give to other people, and sometimes things that we need from other people. And I think it's a really beautiful way of building your own support network almost. And we at PKA really like to say that we like to climb by lifting others. that when you get to a certain spot in your journey, that you can kind of reach a hand down and help somebody else up.
Yeah.
And I just think it's wonderful that you're leveraging kind of this asynchronous teaching where you're putting these videos online where anybody in all over that has internet access can access them at any time. And
I wish, like, when I started out, there were resources like this to help out, because I had to do trial and error a lot on my own. Yes, I had some mentors here and there, but I never read entrepreneurship books. Once in a while, people ask me, "Oh, what books do you read?" I don't really read books. I just do. And I remember I was being interviewed by the Globe and Mail at one point, and they asked me that question. "Oh, so what entrepreneurship books do you read, or can you recommend?" Like, we have to skip this question. I don't even know. Most people say reading is key, right? You have to keep developing your skills. So I'm a bit of an oddball that way. I just do what I think is right, watching what other people are doing and trying to mimic the success. And for the most part, I've been quite lucky to do what I do. And the biggest compliment is if somebody looks at one of my videos or a podcast that, you inspired me to do X, Y, Z, or you helped me with an issue I had. And here, thank you so much for helping me realize that I've come out of my shell. That's why I do what I do. Do I get money from YouTube or all this monetization? No. But it's great credibility.
Definitely. And it's hours of kind of speaking when you're not in the room. Yeah. And I think that when people, especially when people are at the beginning of their journey and they're vulnerable and they're the person without the fedora in the corner that's really shy and isn't quite sure, what they're doing, that these videos could really help people to find their confidence and to move in the direction that they want to be moving, to like kind of pursue their truer path. And I think that that's a really awesome contribution to the world.
Absolutely. Rebecca, there's an old, I think it's a Chinese proverb. When's the best time to plant a tree? I ask people this once in a while, and obviously they say, well, today I'll plant a tree right now so that it'll grow in the future. Actually, the best time would have been 20 years ago. So now it would be sprouting. And all that to say is, when you're thinking of starting up a business, yes, it's scary for many, many different reasons. The security and the lack of resources and funds, and the list goes on and on and on. But just do it. Just jump right in. And then you figure things out. But you obviously have to have a plan before you just jump in and invest all your resources into it. But that's why there are resources out there. In your local town, there's probably a Board of Trade, Chamber of Commerce. There's probably resources to help startups. There might be government funding to help you launch a business, learn about technology, connect with other people. But that comes down to networking. Putting it out there that you're thinking of starting a business, you're doing some market research. This is great, but see what's already been done. And I would always suggest, feasibly, go into a field or a form of entrepreneurship that you are passionate about, that you love, that you're an expert in. Like, let's say I wanted to open up a fish stand or, a taco stand or something. I don't know anything about fast food. That's definitely not something I'm going to get into. Music, absolutely. I know a ton about music. Virtual events, absolutely. And it's also my passion. Because Rebecca, the saying, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I wake up every day, I take a couple of dogs for walks, but then I can't wait to get started working on virtual events and interviewing people like you, or you're interviewing me rather, and just having a great time. I'm enjoying life, loving it.
I love it. And I love that you kind of brought yourself to that path, that when you looked out into the world, there wasn't this particular path out there, and you really through your own effort, like your own internal knowing of yourself and also putting things into action, you kind of made this path for yourself.
Absolutely. And like anything out there, they don't tell you where you should find a job. You have to figure it out. Most people, it takes a lifetime to figure out where you want to be in life. I think I'm figuring it out now, but it took a while to get there. If I didn't have the experience of the music and running a business, and I treat my musicians, they're all contractors. Same thing when I hire people for my virtual events, they're contractors, and I treat them the same way. I have a Google Doc. Anyways, it's all about the processes, invoicing and collecting payment and all this and that. But they're transferable skills, a lot of these. most of the time when you speak to serial entrepreneurs, they might start a business, put their heart and soul into everything for a few years, and move on. They like the thrill of that. I like it to a certain extent, but I'm not opening up a new business anytime soon. I just love what I do, and I'm all in. I'm throwing the trawl all in.
I love that. And circling back to something you said earlier, you said you didn't read books, but you kind of did action. And I think that a lot of people kind of get caught in a trap of reading other people's ideas or trying to follow somebody else's path and thinking in the back of their mind, oh, I'll do this one day, like it's going to be great, and just kind of have this perfect idea and kind of nurse this perfect idea and kind of not put it out into the world, not tell anybody about it, and just think that that's going to happen for them one day. And I love the idea of just pushing that action part of it forward, because until you take that action, you can't really get the feedback from the rest of the world as to how the world is receiving what you're doing and how you can kind of work with people outside of you to advance what it is that you're trying to do.
Talking about advancing, like COVID is a fantastic opportunity to work on projects that you might not have otherwise gotten around to. When was the last time you cleaned your basement? It's been a while. When COVID started, I spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day cleaning a part of it. And if I felt like it, I'd clean a bit more. And then every day, my basement's kind of clean now, although a year of throwing stuff into it, it's gotten a bit worse. But it's like we're starting a business. You don't have to do it all at once, especially if you have a day job paying the bills. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but most people do. But as an entrepreneur, we don't. You often don't know where your next paycheck's coming. And I would like to put it out there that when you're thinking of starting a business, it's nice having the money coming in. You need it. You have to pay your bills. Great. But what would you do differently if you didn't have the money coming in and you had to rely 100% on the income from your business? I guarantee you'll treat your business differently. Maybe it's more focused. Maybe it's looking for more gigs, or it's working on your processes, your contracts, whatever it is. And for people starting out, they take it for granted. You have the money coming in, and they kind of do the side hustle. I'm sure, Rebecca, you've heard the concept of side hustle. You do something on the side. But what would you do if you didn't have money coming in? And when I put it to people that way, and they think, I don't know what I would do. That's a good question. They approach how they work with their business differently. And I think it helps them advance their business by months or even years.
That's a really good piece of advice. Because if you're an entrepreneur, eventually you're going to get to that point where you're making all of your money off of your business, or at least that's what we hope is happening. We hope that you're making that much money and more. So having that thought early on, maybe when it still is a side hustle, that's a really, that's a good piece of advice.
But again, things could be on side hustle for years. It doesn't matter what you're selling, widgets or whatnot, but when do you take the leap? That's always a scary decision. You could estimate how much will you need to make to at least match what you're currently making. Can you keep doing both side by side? How much more business would your business take if you were to go full time into it? Or can you start hiring people? Well, that's a huge step. Anyways, there's a lot of things to discuss, but like I said earlier, there are most likely resources in wherever you are, if it's through the city or some. Here they have Invest Ottawa or some other, what do they call it, Employment Ontario. There's some great resources to help out. So don't be shy to ask for help and find other resources, people who've already been there. Like I said, I keep referring back to my videos, but it's resources to help others. So please check them out, folks. And it's eSAX with an A. You'd be surprised if you spell it another way. So just be careful.
Yes, I will in the show notes put a link to your YouTube channel so that anybody that is wondering can just go and click that link. But you can see behind Jarrod his lovely eSAX banners. So you can also use that as a keyword to find his YouTube channel. Okay, Jarrod, I want to jump into our tool of the day. We have the Elgato Stream Deck today, and the Elgato Stream Deck is a really interesting tool. This is a tool that I've been using for my virtual event facilitation. And when I met Jarrod, I recommended this to him, and I think that he'll agree that it's a really useful tool. So we're going to be talking about it today. It looks a little bit like this. It gives you different buttons that you can program to do different things. And it's great for virtual event facilitators, but it's also great for people at home. You can use a button to access a website that you access frequently or an application that you open frequently on your computer. So once you have this click one button and whatever you want pops up, or click one button and the thing that you copy paste all the time gets instantly pasted, it's kind of a game changer. Wouldn't you agree, Jarrod?
Absolutely. Like one of my colleague and friend, Jean Paul, he says it's like a clapper. If some of you remember, you'd clap on, clap off, and the lights would turn on and off. It's a shortcut device. And now that you introduced it to me, Rebecca, I don't know how I'd run virtual events without it. Because right now I would have to, I have all my documents open and say how to help people turn their camera and microphones on. It happens all the time. I would find it, copy and paste it into the chat. Now I plugged it into this Elgato Stream Deck. I click a button and that text pops up and sends it. And I can have multiple text, each represented by a different button, or videos, or sound, or it's unbelievable. Like, not only for virtual events, which is why I use it most, but also for emails. When you send a certain amount of emails, it gets really cumbersome to keep typing every time. In the past, I have a lot of videos talking about this. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Please tell me you're not, dear so-and-so, it was really nice meeting at the event last night. I look forward to connecting with you. Oh my God, you do it once on a Word document, copy and paste it, and tweak it as applicable. But make sure you review it one more time. There's nothing worse than saying, hey, Sean, it was really nice meeting at the event, but I was sending it to you, Rebecca, and I said your name wrong. That's really embarrassing. But a lot of that content, you can even pre-program in this Stream Deck and click a button and it pops right away. There's no need anymore to find it in your document and copy and paste it. It's just a shortcut key.
An email in one button once you got it all. Once you got
fabulous. It all. And even for sounds, right? Like I'm just clicking a button. I don't know if you can hear that, but now I'm clapping. Yeah, Rebecca, good job. And it's really a lot of fun. When you're on stage, you can have all these sound effects. Like it's hilarious, and it makes it so much more efficient for virtual events. Anybody who's hosting virtual events, all of this text, like the videos, my YouTube channel, everything is at one button. It's fabulous.
Fantastic. So Jarrod, I asked if you would be willing to share your Stream Deck configuration, because remember, Stream Deck can be configured so differently for different people, whether you use Photoshop all the time and you want to use your shortcuts for Photoshop, or your video editing, or your accounting, whatever it is that you're using, you can set up this Elgato Stream Deck for your use, and you can press buttons that feel applicable to you. So Jarrod was kind enough to agree to share his current configuration. Remember that this is kind of a new thing in his life, so I'm sure that even in a couple months things might change, but you've found a configuration that works for you, and I'm really interested for you to share it. Are you willing to do that at this time?
Rebecca, thank you.
All right, I will put your Stream Deck on the screen and I'll let you talk.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. When you first told me, there's a couple of options. One was the Stream Deck Mini, which only had 6 buttons. And yes, you could create folders within folders and within folders, but I thought that was still too cumbersome. I wanted something even easier. So this is what, 15 little video options here. So and these bottom ones are folders. So if I go to sound, on my machine, I would just click the button that says sound. See, and it clicks here.
And opens up that new folder of sounds.
Yeah, I have just folders of sounds. And here's all my clapping ones here. If I want to have a drum roll, when I do award ceremonies, I click drum roll. Then I could stop it. Congratulations. And I click a couple buttons for clapping. Normally, I would have had to copy and paste the drum roll video, stop it, copy and paste a clapping video, and stop it. Here, it's instant. Let's say I want to have, I just some background ambiance music while we're chatting. I thought that's kind of cute. And then I have all these other options. Often it's somebody's birthday. So I added that up there. Let's say there's a speaker that's going on a bit long, to cut them off. And there's a couple of different versions of that. Egg timer, a little alarm clock, and all these fun, cute little...
Oh, that's my favorite one.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And then I have a couple of more during Christmas time, or let's say I'm having fun with somebody, not like recorded, like they're not answering, or maybe they left the room or something. Kind of crickets, kind of cute. I don't know if I'll use those. That's why they're in like my third or fourth folder. But the ones I use often, I have on the main page here. Now my text, here's how you turn your camera and microphone on. Instead of, again, having to copy and paste it, everything is here. Here's how to update your
use these for announcements, right? Announcements to the entire event a lot of times.
Yeah, that's right. And this is specific to my needs for my virtual event platform. I have some timers, and we were just chatting earlier about the countdown timers. There's a French version, more like, and then when I'm giving like in a presentation, here's a little video like how to return to remind speakers they're up next, muted, like, hey everybody, your camera and microphone are currently muted right now. Sit back, and we have a great lineup for you. And then we have videos. These are some of my playlists. The mayor of Ottawa, Mayor Watson, was at one of my events a few months ago, and he pre-recorded something. But it starts off, thank you so much for joining us at an eSAX virtual event. I use that often as a little intro to show people what's possible in my platform. There's a little video of my band playing, and it really is a game changer. Some tech. Here's how you refresh your screen. Here's how you do this, that, and the other thing. Websites. Here's my eSAX website. Here's my personal site, my band website, one of my podcasts, my other podcast, my YouTube playlist, the main channel. It's so easy just to press one button. It's like, hey, Rebecca, I'm going to send you something right now. And there's the link. And I click enter. And
there it is. And it types out your entire message. It can be even 4 lines long. It can be, a whole email long. And with one button click, it'll send.
So for instance, if I want to direct people to my YouTube channel, you see my shortcut is eSAX YouTube playlist. So the text, which I copied and pasted, over 700 eSAX videos on entrepreneurship and networking for small business, you're welcome to share. There's the link. And at the bottom, you see it says press enter after message. If I were to click that, then as soon as I click the button, it posts and presses enter, so it sends. So I chose not to enter that now in case I want to tweak it before sending. And so instead of having to find the playlist and copying and pasting it or going to YouTube and grabbing the link, it's all at the click of a button.
I really like that because there's so many emails that we send frequently or reminders. A lot of people like to share their social links. And so you can have this in pre-programmed folders. So you can just click on it and share your YouTube channel and maybe change somebody's entire life because they'll have the resources they need to become less shy and market themselves and all sorts of things.
And another little thing we discovered, Rebecca, is you can have different, I don't call them folders, but different profiles. So this is the eSAX virtual event stuff. Rebecca rocks. What's that? So this could be a whole other profile of, let's say, just emails that you send to people. And it works exactly the same. You can make little folders. Let's go up and make a folder and, show how easy it is.
Yes, let's dig right into a use case. So let's talk about what is it that we're going to build on this Rebecca Rocks profile.
Great. So let's make a folder. For ease of reference, I always put my folders at the top right. I just like it. I think it's easy to find. So I go create folder. Great. And for folder, you could choose the color, and there's so many different options for graphics you could have it. I like the red one because it stands out. So I know that that's a folder. Okay. There you go. So you see now it's red. Now if I click it, it opens up to another blank slate. Now let's say I wanted to share some text. So I hover over the right-hand side under, and there's its system. Go to text. I'm left clicking the button and I'm dragging it. Let's say I put it here. Okay, great. So that's the text. So I could say test, And okay, let's just say I'll copy and paste something. That's one of my, it's called Ask the Fedora. We have a lot of videos on little 1-minute tips on networking. So instead of test, I'm just going to copy and paste. There it says Ask the Fedora. Whoop, sorry. But then I'm going to get rid of, I'm just going to make it nice and neat. See, this, it gets a little, you can't really read it. Because again, this is what you see on your little button. So I go ask and I put a space. It makes it on another line. But it's still a bit slow, small, so I could change the font, make it a little bit bigger. If you make it bigger, it's going to, oh, that's a little too much. See, because you want to make it as easy and clear to see on your end. There, great. And then I just exit that. So now it says Ask the Fedora. If I go to a chat button, let's say a chat box with somebody or a general announcement, I click Ask the Fedora, and it sends it right away. I don't have to keep looking for it anymore.
All of that text that you normally would have either had to copy and paste from a document or type out and find the link, now you press that button, it pastes into the chat box or the announcement box, wherever you've clicked, and it's all there, all ready for you.
And let's say I want to open up a website. So I go to the website box and I left click it and I hover it over. And say I put it here. Okay. See, it opens up. So this is the eSAX space website. That's a little bit too much. So I lower the, there you go. It's just so I can see it better. I go back to edit it, paste the website, and I kind of touch anywhere out to close the, there. Now it says eSAX website. Now if I click the eSAX website, it just opened up a new window on my computer right to my eSAX website.
As if you went and opened a new browser window and typed in eSAX and it popped up.
Yeah. And like we're discovering, Rebecca, we're just touching, testing the waters right now on what it can do.
Scratching the surface.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that demo of the different actions.
Oh, no problem. I know a lot of people who do gaming. Actually, I don't do gaming myself. I know a few people who do, but they would love something like this because let's say you're in the middle, you score a big win, you click the button, like, oh yeah, it plays it. Or you have like the funky little clips, or you could share a screenshot, or it's so cool. But for virtual events, it's really a game changer.
And I think for working in general, it's a game changer. I mean, anything that you would have to use the brain power. I heard once that presidents oftentimes will wear the same thing every day, or Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. President Obama had 2 suits that he kind of do I want to wear the gray or do I want to
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that helps you to not have to make those decisions over and over, so that you can save your deciding power for something else. You can save kind of that brain power. And I find it so helpful to be able to press a button and something pops up, versus having to even think about, oh, I have to click this, I have to click this. And then maybe you get distracted by your email or whatever. You just click a button and whatever it is that you've pre-programmed that button to do happens.
Yeah, and you could pre-program it ahead of time. Obviously, you have to do that. And I'm like, every time I'm in a meeting or giving a demo, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good one. And I just I open up the Stream Deck file, and I just create a new little graphic for it. And it saves it on the Stream Deck itself. You see, remember you sharing the screen earlier? But this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that here. You see the Stream Deck? So it's
the screen, just so everyone knows, reflects exactly what you see on this panel. Panel. There you go. This physical panel.
It's just that. So, and it's cute. It's nice little. It's easy to see. Like you can push all the right buttons, and it just sits here. It looks like it's just part of the furniture.
I love it. And it has some texture to it. So on the middle button, it's got kind of texture. So you could even reach over and kind of feel around and figure out where the middle button was, and get that kind of muscle memory about what it is that you want to share. But it's really quick and simple once you've kind of figured out the configuration that works for you. Thank you so much, Jarrod, for sharing your Stream Deck configuration today. And I hope that this inspired all of you at home to use the Stream Deck and to kind of think about, what websites do I use, what applications do I use, and what could I envision myself using this for. I hope that it brings you a lot of interesting connections and ways to help yourself to move faster in this modern digital world. And Jarrod, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and for sharing your joy of life and your entrepreneurship experience and your willingness to help other people and network, and this kind of long-term thinking that you have around the concept of networking.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I really have to thank you profusely for introducing me to this amazing platform. And it's changed my life. It made my events so much more efficient, because we're always trying to look for efficiencies in our processes, and having everything at the touch of a button instead of finding it and copying and pasting. I was pretty quick before, but now, whoa, watch out, world, here we come.
You're like the road runner now. You're just speeding along. And all those extra minutes that you save, those extra seconds, they really add up. I mean, and that extra mental brain power, it really adds up.
Yeah.
So if you have the pleasure of attending one of Jarrod's events and you see one of those announcements popping up, or you hear one of those awesome sound effects, you'll know that in the background, he's doing some magic with the Elgato Stream Deck.
Thanks again, Rebecca. I really appreciate it. Happy networking.
Thank you. And I encourage all of you to visit the link below to visit Jarrod's YouTube channel. And again, Jarrod, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us today on PKA Solves Live. I hope that this tool has helped you. Please leave a comment in the comments below to let us know what you think that you would do with a tool like this. And be sure to check out the links in the descriptions for this tool and many other helpful tools. And until next time, have a great day.